Okay. Good evening. Tonight's shiur Lilu Nishmat Avi Marido Ber Ber Ben Ruven Halevi Imi Maroti Rachel Bat Harav Michael. And I apologize for the late start. Had some technical difficulties here in the show with some new software we've got in the show. So tonight's shiur, this Shabbos again, we continue with Sefer Dvarim, Moshe's exhortation to Am Yisrael, and parshat Ekev. Basically, again, Moshe continues reminding Am Yisrael of who we are, where we are, what we're supposed to be doing. And I want to focus on one small section of this week's parsha where Moshe is telling us about the challenges of prosperity. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. And we're really going to begin with the Dvarim chapter Chet, Parak 8, Parak Chet, chapter 8 in Dvarim. And if we read through, I'm going to very quickly read through Moshe's introduction and then his basic exhortation. So Moshe starts with you should observe all the mitzvot that you're being commanded. Why? Leman tichyu v'ten, in order that you should live and prosper. Uvatem v'yishtem et haaretz, you'll come in and inherit the land Hashem that Hashem has promised to give to your ancestors. And now Moshe gives a very, very brief history lesson. Remember the entire journey that you've been going on for the last 40 years in the desert, that Hashem took you to challenge you and to test you. To know what was in your heart. Will you observe the mitzvot? Are you ready to accept the mission of being God's people? He afflicted you and he made you hungry, literally. And he gave you the manna to eat, which you didn't know before that. Neither did your ancestors ever eat man. This was the only generation that ate man. But the purpose of the man was to teach you that man, famous quote, man does not live by bread alone, but man requires all that comes out from the mouth of God is what humans need to survive. Your clothes did not wear out. Your feet didn't get all calloused and whatever from the journey. So 40 years you've been going and you've been healthy. Your clothes have stayed. Your bodies have stayed. And you should therefore take to heart like a man chastises his son, so Hashem chastises you. Or Yasreka is challenges you. Let's put it that way. V'shamartu et mitzvot Hashem Elokecha. You should observe again where we started. Observe the mitzvot. Lalechet b'drachav, to walk in His ways. V'liyiroto, and to be in awe of Hashem. Now that was all the preamble. Remember that history of the last 40 years. Remember what's been going on. Remember all that Hashem did for you these 40 years. Ki Hashem Elokecha. Now Hashem is going to continue. He's Miviachol Eretz Tova. He's bringing you to a land that is good. Eretz Nachalei Mayim, a land of springs of water. Ayanot Utamot. Again, La Nachalei Mayim is wadis of water. Ayanot is springs and depths. Yotzim Babika Uvahar, that come out of the valleys and the mountains. Eretz Chita Useora V'Gefen Uteinav Rimo, and the land that has wheat and barley and grapes and figs and pomegranates. Eretz Shem, a land flowing with olive oil and dvash and honey. By the way, honey refers to date honey, not bee honey in this case. Eretz Hashem, this is a land in which you will not eat bread in poverty. Lo techsar kobo, you will not be lacking anything within it. Eretz Asher Avonau Barzel, a land whose stones are iron. And from the mountains you will be able to mine copper. And you will eat and be satiated. And you will bless Hashem For this great land that he has given you. By the way, this verse, of course, which we should all recognize from Birkat HaMazon, is the basis of the whole concept of brachot for eating. That we thank Hashem when we have eaten, and therefore, how much more so should we thank Hashem before we eat, when we're hungry and we're really appreciate the food, rather and as well as when we finish eating and we're satiated and we appreciate the food. Now, all of that again. Verses 7 through 10 is Hashem giving us all the beautiful things that Hashem is going to give us when we get to the land. Verses 1 to 6 were all of those things that Hashem did for us up until this point in time. Now we come to Moshe's exhortation. Hishamar lecha, be very careful. Pen tishkach et Hashem elokecha, lest you forget Hashem. Levilti shemor mitzvotav mishpatav v'chukotav, and that you will no longer observe and guard the commandments, the judgments, and the statutes that that I am commanding you today. That I, in the name of Hashem, am commanding you today. Why is Moshe concerned? Because he says the following: Pen tochal v'savata, you will eat and be satiated. Uvatim tovim tivne, you'll build beautiful houses v'yashavta, and you'll dwell in them. Uvekarcha v'tzon chayir b'yun, your cattle and your sheep will be plenty, will be multiplied. V'chesef v'zav yiralach, and you'll even have gold and silver, lots of gold and silver. V'chol asher l'chayir b'eh, everything that you have will be multiplied. You'll be very prosperous, Moshe says. What happens when we're very prosperous? V'ram levavecha, your heart will be elevated. V'shachachtu et Hashem elokecha, you will forget Hashem, hamotziacha me'eretz Yisrael v'beit avadim, who took you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slavery. What else did he do for you? Hamolichecha b'midbar hagadol v'hanora, who led you through the great and awesome desert. Nachash, there are snakes, saraf, scorpion, fiery, poison snakes, the akrav and scorpions, the tzimo ein asher ein mayim, and thirst because there's no water. Hamotzilach amayim mitzurach alamish, who brought forth water from the rock. Hamachilcha man b'midbar, who gave you manna to eat in the desert. Asher lo yadun avotecha, again, which your ancestors did not know. In order to afflict you and to challenge you. But all of this is leitivcha bi'acharitecha. Everything we have to understand that Hashem did all of this for our own long-term benefit. But we have to be careful that what? You'll say in your heart, my strength and my powerful hand, that's what made me so rich. I did all the work. I did it all. What happens when we do that? Don't think that. Remember Hashem. Why? Hashem is the one that gives you the strength to make all this wealth that you have generated. In order to fulfill the covenant that he made with your ancestors like today. Now, this whole chapter of 18 verses is perhaps one of the most interesting verses because from verse 9 on, Rashi has no comment. I don't think there is any section that long other than repetitive sections like the Nesiim where Rashi doesn't have any comments. Nothing bothers Rashi. Rashi says this is all very clear. It's direct. Moshe's giving it to us straight, nothing to discuss. So we can't start with Rashi, so instead we're going to start with his grandson Rashbam. Rashbam says, Ki Hashem elokecha mevi'acha eretz tova. Firstly, Hashem is bringing us to this beautiful land, and what's going to happen in the end after we're prosperous and we've fought all the wars and we've conquered everybody and we've settled and everything is going smoothly? Your heart will be strengthened and you will forget Hashem. Lekach, Moshe says, therefore, I am commanding you, Lizkar et Haderech, remember what we've been through these past 40 years. How Hashem provided all your needs, not in a natural way, not from the land, but from the heavens. V'yadata, and you will understand, ki lo b'koach yikbarish. Humans can succeed only when they have Hashem helping them, when they're utilizing the tools Hashem has given them, then they will be successful. But when they forget Hashem, they're going to be in deep trouble. Now, it says, you will not eat bread in poverty. What does that mean? You won't eat bread in poverty? Kilomar, Rashbam says, Lo tochal pat chareva giterach anium miskein. You won't just have a meal that only has bread and it's only dried out, coarse, plain, simple bread, like a poor person who has nothing except a piece of bread to eat. Shahare, why does Moshe say that? Milvad achita v'yasaora, besides the bread, the wheat, and the barley that will provide bread, yiyelocha gefen te'ein of a rimon, u'devash tamarim shemesukim. You will not only have wheat and barley to make bread, Hashem promises, but you'll also have all these wonderful fruits, grapes and figs and pomegranates and dates. So all of these sweet fruits, which will make your meals be much more than just a plain dry piece of bread that a poor person eats. Ekev lo tishme'un, and at the end Moshe says, be careful that you should make sure you should listen. Zeu siyum kol parsha. This is already the beginning, the end of what we began at the beginning of the Kriya, because at the beginning of the parsha it said, that if we follow Hashem's derech and we follow the derech of the mitzvot, then we can inherit the land. But the Ekev lo tishmu, but if we don't, tovdun mimena. Hashem promises that we will be driven out of Eretz Yisrael if we fail in our mission of keeping up the mitzvot and following the derech of Hashem and building a society that promotes godliness, promotes tzedakah, righteousness. If we do that, then Hashem promises we will prosper. If we don't, we will be driven out. It's 4-0. El Eretz Tova. Why is this called Eretz Tova, a good land? Shenikbetzu ba minei tovot, sheno nikbetzu begalil zulato. This has all of the beauty of the world congregated in this small place that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. The Moshe lists 5 different types of good things that are in Eretz Yisrael. And every one of them is prefaced with the word Eretz. So it's a land that has this benefit. It's a land that has that benefit. 5 times Moshe lists them. Harishon, the first is, Hu Eretz Nachale Mayim Ayonot Utomot. It's a land of flowing streams, of underwater springs, and springs that come up from the depths. Lo me ye'orim bagamim. It's not a land of lakes and ponds, hagamim haraim, that have brackish water. It's a land of flowing, clear, beautiful water. This is hefech b'mayim orim v'aretz mishakel. It's the exact opposite of a country that has bad water and therefore the land stagnates. So if it has swamps, then you can't survive. It has to have flowing river, potable water, and that's what Moshe promises Eretz Yisrael has. When? Again, when we watch and follow the mitzvot. Hasheni, the second benefit, Hu Eretz Chita Sa'ora Tzrichim Lamazon. It's a land of Chita and Sa'ora. It's a land of barley and wheat and barley, which you require for your basic staples. So it has the basic needs, the basic staples it has. Hashlishi, the third thing it has is Eretz Shemen Udvash. Not only does it have the staples, it has olive oil and date honey. Shehei Madane Melech. These are the delicacies that are served on royal tables. So not only does it have your plain and simple everyday fare, it even has royal food, beautiful food, delicious food. That's number 3. Haravi'i. The fourth is Eretz Shalobiskenu Tochal Balechem. It is a land that you will not have to eat in poverty. Why? Sheyimtzu ba ma'ot bizol. There will be plentiful currency. Currency will be available to buy food, to trade. Everything will be fine. Ka'amru, and we see that Chazal says, "Vatimole artso kesef ve'ezav v'ein katele el trotav." Pasuk Yishai says, the land will be filled with gold and silver, and there will be no end to the treasures that will be collected. Ki amnam, why is that important? Why is having treasures important? Ki amnam yoker hamaot kashem yoker haperot. The Sforno says that it's worse having a shortage of money than having a shortage of fruit. Because when you have a shortage of money, then you can't buy even the plain staples. So it says you'll have plenty, everything will be fine. Ki Amram as we see from the Gemara, it says that not having money in circulation is worse than not having fruits. Lo shanu al batzor shel perot. The only time that we don't call out for a famine on a Shabbat is when it's a famine of fruit, of food. When there's a shortage of money floating around, when currency is tight, then we immediately have to cry out to Hashem. So that's his proof that it's important to have a steady flow of currency. Hachamishi, the fifth is Eretz Asher Avaneha Barzel. It is a land that has solid stones. Sheba nimtza ribui anashim kashod yirod yafot v'tavot lebinyan. That it has, not only does it have food, not only does it have money, it also has good building materials, solid stone to make solid buildings that will be survival, that will keep you going. So it has everything you need. Now it's interesting, notice, no mention of petrol or oil refineries. There's no mention of diamonds and platinum. Why? Because those are all luxuries. Here, with the luxuries that it gives are those that are edible luxuries, not luxuries that just to show off how rich you are. That's not what Moshe is interested in, and that's not what Hashem is interested in, and that's not what Eretz Yisrael is about. Eretz Yisrael is about having plenty of the things that we need to survive and to thrive and to live, not to be extravagant and overblown. So it's a very important distinction here that all of the parshat that Sforno is making here. Tachtzov nechoshet. You'll be able to get nechoshet, all these metals that you need from the there'll be minerals in the mountains. Hu barzel hatov shu bahir v'naot lebinyanu kelib. Says this is the best type of material that is good for building the utensils that you'll need to run your household and for building beautiful houses. And ultimately, after we've eaten, we have to bless Hashem. L'man tizkar. Why do we say Birkat Hamazon and why do we say thank you Hashem? In order to remember ki me'ito hayu eila lecha. Everything we have is a gift from Hashem. It comes from Hashem. That's why the key here is recognizing Hashem, thanking Hashem for all that He's provided for us, and through that is the way we will ensure that we don't forget about Hashem and forget about how we got to where we are and why we're here. Okay. The rest is we'll skip and we'll go to the Chizkuni. Okay. Lo techsar kobo. There will be nothing missing. What does that mean? There's nothing missing. He says it's an additional bracha. Chizkuni says that kol hagadel bo, those crops that grow in Eretz Yisrael, eino gadel b'chisaron ela b'shefa. They won't grow in shortages. There won't be even everything can grow, but it will grow sparsely. Rather, Chizkuni says this bracha lo techsar kobo means everything will grow in plenty. That all of the crops will have bumper crops. Okay, now we're going to talk about a little bit about bracha Birkat Hamazon. Mikan anu omrim shalosh brachot b'Birkat Hamazon. The perverse, as it is stated, is the reason that we say is the derivation for the three brachot of Birkat Hamazon. V'achalta v'savata uveirachta. You will eat, be satiated, and bless Hashem. Shemavarchim al achila, that we bless after we've eaten. Zuhi Birkat Hazon. That's the first bracha of Birkat Hamazon, that we thank Hashem for providing the food we need. Uberachtoid Hashem Elokecha. Then the pasuk continues. Uberachtoid Hashem Elokecha. You bless Hashem. This comes l'rabot bal habayit, to add the person who granted you all this. So in other words, in addition to blessing the food that we've been provided, we bless the provider, the one who has provided this blessing, and it's Hashem Elokecha is the one who has provided all of this for us. Al haaretz. What is the pasuk then? Uberachtoid Hashem Elokecha al haaretz. Zui Birkat haaretz nodlocha Hashem Elokeinu. The second bracha of Birkat Hamazon is based on the pasuk al haaretz, that it says we thank Hashem for the land. We bless Hashem for giving us the land, Eretz Yisrael, and all that's included in that. And then it says haaretz hatovah. The word hatovah, asher natan lecha, that Hashem has given you. Zui Birkat bonei Yerushalayim. This is the bracha we make for Yerushalayim. Ki dechsiv haaretz tovah zeh v'halavano. That the word tov refers to the Beit HaMikdash, refers to Yerushalayim, and that's why we say a bracha for Yerushalayim in the Birkat Hamazon. Now, Tiskuni goes a step further. He says, which is basically based on the Gemara, Hashta. Now that we've realized that after I've eaten and I'm satiated, and I've filled my soul with food, I have to bless Hashem and thank Hashem. Mitchila, at the beginning, when I'm hungry, and I have an appetite, and I'm happy that I've got food in front of me to eat. Lo kol shkein. How much more so? That I have to make a bracha on the food before I eat to thank Hashem for providing this food that is going to fill me up. Just like after I'm full, I say thank you Hashem for providing it. Beforehand, I have to say thank you Hashem for providing it too, because now I'm going to be able to eat it. We have 3 words in this pasuk. You should eat, be satiated, and blessed. Kan ramaz lishlosha. This is a hint to 3 people. Shetzrichim lezamein. That when 3 people eat together, they have to make a zimun. V'achalta chad, v'savata trei, uberachta shlishi. So it alludes to the fact that when you have 3 people who eat together, they make a zimun in addition to saying birkat hamazon. V'ram levavecha, and your heart will become haughty. V'shachachto, and you will forget. Uktiv le'el, and this echoes in what it said before. Hishamar lecha, be careful. Pentish kach, that you shouldn't forget. As harami kan legasei haruach. This is a warning against haughtiness. Moshe says that when you're haughty, you can't think about Hashem. You don't think about Hashem. You think you did it all on your own. You don't need Hashem's help. When we think that, we get into trouble, because in reality, we have to acknowledge the fact that we do need Hashem. And that we not only do we need Hashem, but that Hashem has given us what we need to succeed. Ramban focuses first on this fact that it says Eretz Nachale Mayim, a land of streams of water. Shehu Kigan Raveh. It's like, what is that to tell us? It's like a watered garden. It's a garden that always has lots of moisture, lots of garden, and it's going to grow very lushly because of that. Lo sheyashkua mayim beregel keretz Yisrael. I don't have to dig irrigation ditches like I had to do in Egypt, or schlep water in buckets to water the land. Kasher yomar od, as it'll say later on in a different pasuk, not one that we just read above, but a pasuk later on in our parsha, kilometara shamayim tishtamayim, because rainwater will be the primary source of water. When the rain and it comes down from the mountains and it fills the streams and it flows and it makes it possible for you to have water. Pirush. Ki ayanot utalmot, that there are streams coming up from the depths and springs. Yotim babika v'gambahar. Not only in the lowlands but also in the highlands, you have streams and brooks coming out of the mountains. Umisham yizchalu ba nechalim, and that will create streams that will flowing streams that will provide you with the water you need. The shiur hakatuv, and the pasuk explicates 2 different things: ayonot, which are springs, ve'enot tomot, and these are springs from the depths. Kimo azuz enot tahom. There are 2 different types of springs. There are springs that come from rainwater, and there are from underground water, and there are springs that come from the depths, from internal water supply, from the water table. And what does this come tell you? There are springs that generate their water from the moisture inside mountains. From the rainwater that is absorbed within them, or from the steam that rises from underground sources, from the underground thermal heat that feeds them. The Haim Shakara Ayanot, those are called springs. Call my name to all the water springs that have. The Maino Maim, 2 psukim that discuss springs of water. The Yesh Behem, and there are other water sources, Yotzimi Mekor HaTa'om, that come up from the depths originally. The Haim Shanikwim Tehomot, and they are called Tehomot. Kilomar Ma'ayanot Tehom, they are springs from the depths. The Omar, and the Moshe is telling us, Ki Mishneim Babika V'gam Bahar. You will have both sources of water coming out, both in the valleys and in the mountains. So you'll have plenty of water, again, When we follow Hashem's commands, when we do what we're supposed to be doing, Hashem provides plentiful water, both from underground sources and from rain, and from, as I said, the melt of snow, etc. All of these sources provide beautiful, fresh, running water that is needed for human survival and, of course, for agriculture also. It says also, it discusses the minerals that you're going to get from, and the stone you're going to get from the earth. The place where you'll find stones, you'll also find iron ore. Because it's taken from within the stones. And Moshe is letting Am Yisrael know. You will be able in Eretz Yisrael to mine copper and iron, which are necessities for people living in the land. So in other words, he's saying that Eretz Yisrael not only has the farmland to provide food, it also has the minerals you need to provide the other things you'll need in life. Lo tachsar kolpa, you will not be missing anything. Aval, motzah, kakesav v'zav einenu chisaron ba'aretz. The fact that there is no silver mines and no gold mines and no diamond mines, that's not a chisaron ba'aretz, because those are not necessarily. The stones lead and show you where there is metals. Ratzalomer. What does this come to teach us? Shakatuv mishabeach haaretz. The Moshe is praising Eretz Yisrael. Sheyimtzu bo machatzvim. You'll be able to find stone quarries. Min avanim gedolot, avanim yakarot avnei gazit livnot behen batim v'chamot umigdalim. You will be able to carve out stones from the quarries that will be able to be the right size, suitable in the right shapes for building houses and building walls to protect your cities and building towers, to watchtowers to make sure you can protect yourself. Lo Eretz Mitzrayim. It's not like Egypt. Yartzot Rabot and many other lands. Shem Shochnei Batei Chomer. That in Egypt the only way they get building material is to take clay and melt it into bricks, or straw and make it into bricks. The Nasim Lioshvem Kivreim. And as a result, those are not suitable lands. They are more likely to bury the inhabitants than solid stone for buildings. Okay, Ramban's, I guess, advertisement for build stone buildings. They're much more solid than brick buildings. Although, despite the three little pigs, right? Anyway, okay. We have again this bracha birkat hamazon. Ki tiskar avodat Mitzrayim ve'inu hamidbar. Again, when you'll remember that we were slaves in Egypt, and you'll remember the struggle of going through 40 years in the desert. When you'll eat and be satiated in this beautiful land that Hashem is giving you, you should bless Hashem. Rabotenu kiblu and the Chachamim establishes this is a positive commandment. V'tamo and its reasons v'tavarech et Hashem Elokecha, to bless Hashem. And it's something, it's a positive, it's an action you have to take. Just like other actions that we take of making a parapet or Vasita Pesach, making Korban Pesach. All of these things are actions that we do, mitzvot that we do action-wise, even though we seem, wait, what's the action of Birkat HaMazon? The action is thanking Hashem, speaking and thanking Hashem verbally. The tam, and the reason is Ala Aretz HaTovah, on this land, that we thank Hashem for the food and for the land. Every time we are satisfied, we bless Hashem al hasova, not only for the food that satiated us, but we also thank Hashem for the land. So every time we eat, we don't just thank Hashem for the food, we also thank Him for the gift of Eretz Yisrael. Hashem granted us this as a gift for eternity. We are able to be satiated from its plenty. And that, this mitzvah, however, even though we are not living in Eretz Yisrael, we still have the obligation to thank Hashem for the gift of Eretz Yisrael, even when we're not living here. That's what he says. Everywhere. Okay, we have an obligation again, through the Birkat Hamazon and through all these things, to remember Hashem, Kihu Hanoten Lacha Koach Lasot Choyel, as Moshe said. He is the one who gives us the energy, the strength to amass, to accomplish, to achieve. Yadua, even though it's known, to Yisrael Giborim, V'Anshe Chayel HaMilchama, that Am Yisrael are strong and they're powerful in battle. They're compared to lions and wolves that tear their prey. And they were able to defeat all of the Canaanite kings, all those powerful Canaanite kings, and Sichon and Og, they're able to defeat. Al Kenamar, that's why Moshe is reminding them. If you're going to start thinking, we conquered this land because we were so strong and we are powerful warriors, and that's why we conquered this land, and that's why we've got so much wealth and so much riches. Remember, Hashem, that when Hashem came to take you out of Mitzrayim, you had no strength, you had no power, you had no wealth, no riches at all before Hashem came and took you out of Egypt. And also remember, in the desert where it's impossible for humans to live for a long time. Again, Hashem provided for all of your needs. Therefore, all of this that you've achieved now in Eretz Yisrael, quote, through your strength, Hashem hu shenatan lecha koach asher asita ota. Who gave you the strength to do all this stuff? Hashem. Remember that Hashem is the one who gave you the strength to do everything. V'im tishkach et Hashem, if you'll forget, not if, when you forget Hashem, yichaleh kochacha, your strength will ebb, ushe'ercha uv'tabed kasher avduhem. Just like these Canaanite kings were lost and destroyed, so too you will be destroyed. Kikol ozvei Hashem yikolu. All those that leave Hashem will find their end. So again, Moshe is, and Rabban is just really paraphrasing Moshe. He's exhorting Am Yisrael very, very strongly. Don't forget Egypt. Don't forget Hashem took you out. Don't forget Hashem sustained you for 40 years in the desert. Don't forget that Hashem's the one who helped you conquer all these kings and gave you all the land that's so productive and fruitful and plentiful. All of those things you have to remember. And one of the ways we remember them is by thanking Hashem and being constantly aware of his presence. And it comes to bring one more proof. You shouldn't think, I did it all on my own. The Amar, and again, we're going to have in a later parak, Moshe is going to say to Am Yisrael again, Shema Yisrael, remember Am Yisrael, that Hashem is the one who gave you all of this strength. Davar emet mipi. All of this, I'm not making up, Moshe says, even though I'm saying this is truth. In reality, Am Yisrael had no hope to win the battle of conquest because all of these nations were all, on paper, they were all stronger than Am Yisrael. And not only were they stronger than Eretz Yisrael, they had strong, heavily fortified cities. How do you think you're going to be able to conquer them? Not only that, there were sons of the giants who lived there, powerful. You already heard from the Meraglim that they saw these Bnei Anakim. And you heard all that happened when your ancestors from the Meraglim, what they were told, that nobody can stand before these powerful giants. When you're able to, when you remember and clarify all of this important information I've just told you, you'll have to know and believe. You will not be able to even go up and stand up against them at all until you internalize in your heart, Hashem is the one who is going to go before you. He is the fire that will destroy them. And he will destroy them and bring them to their knees. Lo koach v'otzem yad shenatan lecha, not through your own human powers. Aval yad Hashem astazot. It was literally Hashem did it. V'takifin shebahem. Through Hashem's power, you were able to be strong and conquer these people. The Zeram is Lamasha Amar, and this is hinted by what Hashem tells what happens in Yoshua. That Hashem caused heavy stones to fall on the enemies of Am Yisrael when they were in the middle of the conquest. And similarly, we have another place where Yoshua says, there was never a day in history before this one or that one where everybody was aware that Hashem was fighting on behalf of Am Yisrael. When Yeshua told the sun to stand still, and everybody was able to figure out, that this is Hashem is fighting for Am Yisrael. The Ha'arim HaBetzurochis Kirkan, these powerful fortified cities that were mentioned, Remez hints to them, Lechomot Yericho Shenafla Lifnei Aron. The walls of Yericho fell into the earth when the Aron marched around them. V'zeu Shamar David. This is what David said. Ki lo b'charbam yarshuar. It wasn't through their sword that they conquered the land. Uzro'am lo hoshia lamo. And their hands, their forearms did not save them at all. Ki yemincha uzroach. It's your right hand, Hashem, and your outstretched arm. The or panecha, and the light of your face, ki ritzitam, because they found favor in your eyes. Or, you desired them, excuse me. Yamin Hashem, it was the hand of Hashem, Uzro b'takifim, that were powerful. The or panav sheratzam, and Hashem's light that he wanted Am Yisrael. Ba'aruge hamilchama, that was how all of the soldiers, the people who fought against us dies. Shenatan lahem koach aleim, Hashem gave us power over them. And this way you have another verse that says in Amos, I, Hashem, am the one who destroyed the Amori from in front of the Amorites before you. These Amorites were as tall as cedar trees. Is as powerful as the Alonim. And I destroyed them in front of you, and their roots from under them. Especially even among the Amorites who were most powerful. Hashem hu hamashmidoto. Hashem is the one who destroyed them. So again, as I said, we have to always remember Hashem is the one who took us out, redeemed us, saved us, gave us the power to succeed in all that we do. Kleyakar. Eretz Shalom iskenu tocha bolechem. And then it says, Eretz Asher Avonei Barzel Miharetach Tzov Nechoshet. Now, it says, firstly, it's a land that you won't eat bread in poverty. It's a land that has stones of iron. And then it says, you will eat and be satiated and bless Hashem. So Chazal Darshu, now it's interesting because first it says they're going to eat bread, then it says we're going to have, it's a land where there's stones and iron and copper, and then it tells about blessing Hashem. Now, firstly, Chazal tells us it doesn't say Avanel Barzel, that it's stones or Barzel. Al Tikri Avanel Boneha. Read that its builders are like iron. Elu Talmidei Chachamim. This refers to the scholars She'oskim B'Vinyano Shel Olam, who work on building the world by teaching and disseminating Torah and Torah values. And they sharpen each other like iron. Just like you need iron to sharpen iron, scholars will sharpen each other. Now, Kliyakar wants to know, what caused Chazal to translate this homiletically as referring to scholars, rather than just literally as referring to stones that have iron in them? Venira, and it appears to me, Shekasha Lahem, the problem they had with this sequence of psukim, it starts with you're going to eat bread, and you won't eat bread in poverty. And then it's going to continue, you should eat and bless Hashem. Why does it put a space between these two things that should have been next to each other? It's a land where you'll eat bread without poverty, and it's a land where you'll eat and bless Hashem. Those should have gone together. Why did it interrupt to say something about the land has stones of iron? Elavadai, it must be Shakol Midaber Hanhagat Lomdei Torah. This whole section is alluding to, midrashically, it's alluding to the scholars of Torah. Why? Because we know that if you want to be a scholar, you have to do away with luxuries. You have to be satisfied with a simple piece of bread. So when it says it's a land where you'll eat bread, you'll be able to eat bread and then bless Hashem. And in between, it talks about the scholars. Birhu, and what does that come to teach us? She'eretzu, this land, lo bavur miskanut v'dalut tochal bolecha, kemot shehu sharik lo techsar kolbo. You won't. It's not that you'll eat. It's not because you'll be poor or that you'll eat only bread, plain bread, because you'll have everything. Shari lo techsar kolbo. El lefi she'aretz asher avoneha boneha barzel mechadim zel hazel halacha. That the scholars who are focused on learning who are sharpening each other will be so focused that kol kach yelohem cheshek b'torah shelo yidreshu ezel mekomen shel zvachim harog v'shachat tzom v'shachat b'bakar ela yitztapku b'lechem b'vad. They'll be so busy focused on their intense learning and their intense observance of mitzvot that they won't be thinking about food and wealth and shechting animals and worrying about eating meat and preparing fancy delicacies and meals. They'll be happy with plain bread. And you shouldn't even think that, they're going to only eat bread. They're going to be weaklings if they don't eat a strong enough diet. They got to have a little protein in the diet, a little bit of everything in the diet. Can't just eat bread. They will still be strong like iron. The Torah, it will lend them its energy, and they will remain strong physically as well as mentally as well as spiritually. It doesn't even need this drush of boneha, because we know that a lot of times it uses the term even, stone, to refer to something, an important personage. Kimo, Evan Moas Rabonim, which talks about David HaMelech as stone. Ki Avnei Nezim, stone. Again, Am Yisrael were compared to stone. Evan HaRoshah, the Zubal, who is the leader, is considered Evan HaRoshah, the cornerstone. V'chein Rabbi, many places where the word stone alone refers to those people of note. V'aleim Amar, and concerning them, v'yochalta v'savata, they will eat and be satiated. Ki hatzadik ochel lesova nafsho, a righteous person only eats so his soul should be satiated. Ima'at v'im harbe yochel, it doesn't matter if he eats a lot or a little, he eats enough to sustain him and to keep him going so he can continue in his progress. And from the hills you will take Nechoshet. It also refers to the great people of note. As we see again, Harim, which refers to high points, refers in many places also, as again brings Pesukim, that also the same thing. Okay, I'm going to skip a little bit and we're going to just go one last thing here. Davar acher, another interpretation of the word miskenut. We said that it's a land in which you will not eat bread in poverty, that you will have other things to eat with your bread. However, Claire Carr has a different interpretation of maskenot. Davar acher, eretz shelo is kenut lashon otzarot. That means kenot is storage houses. Milashon vayiven arei miskenot lefaro. As we see that Am Yisrael built storage cities for Paro. So the word miskenot also means storage. So what does that mean? I'll eat bread without having to store it. What does that mean? Is that a blessing or is that a curse? You won't have enough to store. You'll have to eat it right away fresh. No. What does it mean? Shalo yitztarf lasot otzot tzvua ba'aretz mipnei yirat zalafot ra'avo milchama. You'll be at peace and prosperity, that you will not require storing grain against emergency, contingencies. You'll have plenty of property. When we follow Hashem's will, nachon libam batuach b'Hashem shomram umatzilam. When we follow Hashem's path, we don't have to worry about where our food supply is coming from. It will be provided for us on a regular basis, and we will not have to say, oh, we got to stock up food because there's a siege or a war coming or a famine coming. That's the Lashon of Miskenut. So it's a land where you will not require storing food because you will have plenty provided on a regular basis. When we follow Hashem's way. So I think the whole, again, in a simple nutshell, again, Moshe says it all very clearly. We have an obligation as we get into a period of prosperity. When we're poor, notice Moshe doesn't worry about when we're poor, we're going to forget Hashem. He only says when you prosper and when you have everything, suddenly you think you can do it all. And suddenly we forget, slowly but surely we forget Hashem. Moshe warns us very, very carefully that we always have to be vigilant and diligent, especially as we become more and more affluent, that we don't forget where the affluence, where the blessing comes from. Because when we do, it is the beginning of the end. So we have to, as I said, a very, very simple message here from Moshe Rabbeinu. Thank Hashem for everything that you have, whether it's your health, whether it's your house, whether it's your food, whether it's your children, grandchildren, whether it's all of Eretz Yisrael. And we always have to thank Hashem. And that is the key to remaining in Eretz Yisrael, to remaining prosperous in Eretz Yisrael, is to realize that we have a mission that Hashem sent us on. We have to acknowledge that mission. We have to observe the mitzvot, and then Hashem will send us all these wonderful blessings. And ultimately, Bezrat Hashem will be zochet to Gula Shlema to fully be able to reap these blessings, because we won't have to have that huge defense budget, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not that we don't realize HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one helping them out now, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make it a lot more evident that we won't need all of these soldiers and weapons, etc. Thank you all. I hope that's good. I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow